Chapter 3 The Infuriating Tweedle Brothers. Later that day, the new friends set off on their explorations of Wonderland, though at the time they did not yet know to call it such. The White Rabbit took the lead as he and the Queen of Hearts set down the path, neither of them knowing where it would lead them. The rabbit informed her that it was customary for servants of the crown to walk behind the monarch, but since neither of them knew if that was true, because the rabbit couldn't say how he knew such a thing, she insisted to take the lead so he could make the introductions should they encounter anyone. The queen was holding a small, beautifully decorated cake, and since neither she nor the rabbit knew how many of her subjects they would meet that day, or even how many there were in this land, the queen decided it was best to have a number of her servants follow behind them in a caravan with an abundance of cakes. Arranging for the cakes and their transport was a much easier task than delivering them. The queen's servants were most congenial and happy to provide the queen with whatever she needed. The White Rabbit had wisely suggested she go straight to the kitchens by means of the servants' way, so she could avoid an awkward encounter with the king, cautioning her not to mention to anyone it was her first day or ask them if they were experiencing the same phenomenon. So the queen marched into the kitchens as if she had done so countless times before, and for all she knew, she had. They were quite the sight, walking down the long stretch of road, looking as if they knew exactly where they were going, when in fact they did not. They walked on cobblestone paths, lined with giant mushrooms and beautiful red roses, and gentle voices rose up in song from seemingly nowhere. As they passed a patch of colorful flowers, the queen was surprised to see they had faces, and that it was the flowers themselves who sang songs that drifted on the breeze. How very strange and lovely! There was beauty everywhere she looked, from the sun streaming through the branches of tall trees to butterflies hovering as if by magic. Soon the cobblestones turned into a dirt path. The trees grew closer together, and the sunlight only found its way through little slits. Before they knew it, they were in a dense forest. Two strange beings stood at a crossroads, wearing suspenders and tiny pinwheel hats, and making quite the spectacle. They bumped into each other over and over as they chattered away, completely oblivious to the queen and the rabbit who were standing there looking at them. Regardless, it was a relief to see them, because they were both starting to wonder if this land had any inhabitants at all, and how could one be queen without any subjects? And since neither of them knew which road would be best to venture down next, perhaps these gentlemen would be of some assistance. "I say, maybe these fellows will be of some help," said the rabbit. "Perhaps they know where we might find the others who live here." "Provided there are others. I suppose we didn't stop to think there may not be many who live here. But what do you make of these persons, Rabbit?" She spoke under her breath, careful not to get the attention of these strange beings. "Do you know who they are, Rabbit? I'm not sure if we should approach them." She was eyeing the men suspiciously, as though she was quite convinced any interaction with these two would be unpleasant. "I don't, Your Majesty. Remember, today is my first day as well. They do look rather odd, don't you think? With their hats, gigantic bow ties, and high-waisted pants. It's no wonder that enormous raven is eyeing them so intently." And it was true. There was a very large raven sitting on a sturdy branch on a tree to their left. The two small gentlemen were in the shade of the tree, and didn't seem to notice the raven looking down at them as they bounced about. They didn't seem to notice anything at all but themselves, and the queen had to wonder if this was their first day too, even though it didn't seem so. They looked as if they had spent their lives in the same spot, having the same conversation day after day. The way they chattered and moved in sync had the practiced ease of a dance. It seemed more like a performance than an actual conversation. "Shall we venture closer?" asked the rabbit, taking the men's measure. "Yes, Rabbit, why don't we? As long as you think it's safe to approach." As they took a few tentative steps, they noticed the two men were fighting over what looked to be a child's rattle. They were snatching it back and forth from each other, over and over, until it finally fell to the ground and cracked. This caused both of the men to wail, screaming so loudly the raven in the branches ruffled its feathers, and leaving the queen and rabbit to wonder if it was wise to attempt an introduction while these men were in such a state. It seemed they should probably find a better time, though quite frankly the queen would have been perfectly content not to meet them at all, let alone for them to be the very first of her subjects she met on her first day. And just as she thought to tell the rabbit it was best for them to try to slip away quietly, the strange brothers, for surely that is what they were, each of them looking exactly like the other in every way, started to become even more agitated than they had been before. "Now you've done it," cried one. "You spoiled our rattle. I declare we have a battle." The queen took a deep breath and closed her eyes, trying not to lose her patience with these odd little men. She didn't even know them, but it did seem absurd to be so incensed over a broken rattle. She almost said something to try to diffuse the situation, but found herself morbidly mesmerized by the impassive tableau unfolding in front of her. "If you insist, dear brother, if it's a battle you want, then I shall not contradict you," said the second. "I think we better just leave them to their quarrel, don't you, Rabbit? Besides, I don't like the look of that raven. You'd better stay close to me." The queen motioned to the caravan that they would be taking a right at the crossroads, hoping they could skirt past these strange men unnoticed. "I wouldn't go that way," said one of the strange men suddenly. Upon closer observation, the queen could see his name was written on the labels of his shirt, though she wasn't sure what she should call him. "And why is that, Mr. Tweedle? We are the Tweedle brothers, and we are about to have a battle." "I see. Then we won't keep you any longer." The queen tried her best to move past the men, who seemingly forgot all about their battle and were now standing in her way, looking quite offended, arms crossed and scowls on their faces. Based on the queen's experience in this land thus far, she realized it was just the sort of place where two strange beings, neither of whom had paid her the slightest bit of attention at first, would suddenly decide to give her all of their attention the moment she wanted nothing more than to get away from them. She had a strong feeling that this first encounter was a portent of things to come. "That's not proper etiquette. That's not polite," said the man whose color read Tweedledee. With his arms crossed, he resembled a sentinel standing at guard. "Oh, this is too much. These can't be the first subjects I meet, and if they are indeed, they certainly can't be what all subjects in this land are like, or else I should lose my mind. This can't be happening," the queen thought. She looked, horror-struck, at the white rabbit and remembered that he was one of her subjects as well, and so far he seemed to be very curious, inspiring, and rather helpful. He seemed like a wise rabbit and possibly a very good friend. So not all was lost, even if so far, other than the rabbit, she was met with nothing but vexations. "Excuse me, good sirs, but you are addressing our queen. It is not for you to tell our queen what is proper etiquette or polite," scolded the white rabbit. "I am loving this rabbit more and more. And how were we expected to know who she is without proper introductions? Proper introductions are proper manners. Anyone can put on a queen's dress and call themselves the queen, but unless she is introduced as the queen, we don't know who she is. Oh, this is too much. Proper manners indeed. I see, said the queen. Her head spun with the number of times Tweedledee used the words proper and queen, considering she had only just learned she was the queen today, and nothing at all seemed proper in this place. Or maybe what was proper to her was not proper here. She did her best not to explode in anger, for she felt it rising within her. There was something about these men that made her want to wring their necks. Who were they, anyway, suggesting she wasn't proper, suggesting she might not be a queen? Who were they to suggest anything at all, considering just moments ago they were about to have a war over a rattle? I hope you're not insinuating our queen isn't proper. It was as if she and the White Rabbit shared the same thought, and she was happy to see he was just as annoyed with these imbeciles as she was. She loved that the White Rabbit had been, up to this point, level-headed and optimistic, but she was also happy to see this other side of him as well. All the other members of royalty have introduced themselves to us, the Red Queen, the White Queen, the Duchess, the White Knight, and so on. But you just walked past us without a hello or how do you do. That's rude. That's not the way to start. Tweedledum's words brought on a deluge of anger. It was surprising, really, the intensity of her hate for the Tweedle brothers considering their short acquaintance, but there it was, what she detested these men. Rabbit, would you say it's like me to get angry? Did I get angry when I fell off the hedge? No, Your Majesty, you didn't. And was I angry when I woke up next to a stranger in my bed? I couldn't say, Your Majesty. I wasn't there. But I venture to say you were more frightened than angry. Correct. But you, gentlemen, and I use the word gentleman lightly, have made me angry. I will not stand here to be scolded or lectured like a schoolgirl about proper etiquette. Exactly what did you expect of me? To stand here all day awaiting the resolution of your childish argument before I could pass? We expected you to introduce yourself. That's what you're supposed to do, said the brothers in unison, startling the queen. How strange both of their faces looked, with their wide smiles that spread across their cruel-looking mouths, as if they were about to gobble up her sweet little rabbit, perhaps gobble them both. This, my good fellows, is the Queen of Hearts, said the White Rabbit, pushing out his chest and sounding very stern and official. Consider yourselves properly introduced. The Queen was taken aback by the name he had chosen for her there on the spot, but something about it resonated with her as if she had always been the Queen of Hearts. The Queen of Hearts. My, that sounds rather nice. Oh, yes, I love this rabbit. Then you must know the Knave of Hearts. He must be in your court. Tweedledum looked at the Queen in such a way it caused her to take a few steps back. There was something sinister in his childlike manner. She found it untrustworthy and alarming. It seems you know everyone in this kingdom, she replied, without missing a beat, eyeing the brothers. Her imagination went wild when she let herself look directly at their faces. Their heads were like great gourds, their mouths stretching across their expansive faces in the most disturbing way. And it seems you do not know anyone in this kingdom, said Tweedledum. It must be your first day, said Tweedledee. To be fair, it seems to be almost everyone's first day, said Tweedledum. What do you know of first days? Asked the rabbit. We don't know much, but we do know the story of the Mock Turtle and the Griffin. The Tweedle brothers laughed to themselves in such a way it made the Queen want to slap them both until they started talking sense. The Mock Turtle? Isn't that a soup? The Queen wasn't sure how she knew that, but she was almost sure she had heard someone, somewhere, speak of Mock Turtle soup. No, it's a Mock Turtle. Do you know what you have in common with a Mock Turtle? Asked Tweedledum. I do not, Mr. Tweedle, said the Queen, maintaining her outward poise, while inside she imagined screaming at the man and wringing his neck. You both thought you were one thing, and you discovered you're not. Something about his words sent terror into her soul. What did they mean? What would these insane, ill-mannered little men know of her? What do you mean? I demand you tell me. She felt herself unable to hide her rage from these fools any longer. It was bubbling up in her like a kettle on the stove. She could feel her cheeks turning red, her fists tighten. Oh, you will see, said the Tweedle brothers in unison, laughing and dancing and playing leapfrog down one of the paths, quite forgetting the Queen and Rabbit were there. Oh, this is insufferable, she said, shaking her head. Indeed. Come along, there is no reason to linger, said the Rabbit, but neither of them budged. The Queen and Rabbit stood transfixed as the Tweedle brothers continued with their tomfoolery, causing one of them, neither she nor the Rabbit, when she asked, could be sure which of the brothers was the offender, to step on the rattle and shatter it into tiny bits. Now you've done it! You spoiled our rattle! I declare we have a battle, said the other Tweedle. Should we just leave the cake and make our way down the opposite road? The Rabbit whispered. Good idea, Rabbit. If we're lucky, they will choke on it. Or perhaps at the very least, the next person who happens by will be spared their mindless chatter while they're eating. She laughed as if her words were in jest, but she wondered if the Rabbit could tell she was just pretending not to be entirely serious. The last thing she wanted was to make the wrong impression on her new friend, for that was what she was quickly becoming. Thank you for not mentioning to the Tweedles how I became angry when I told you the story of waking up next to the king. Well, Your Majesty, you didn't ask me if that made you angry, and honestly, it's none of their business. Too right. And Rabbit, how did you come up with my name? The Queen of Hearts? I don't know. It just seemed to fit. It seems right somehow. I agree, Rabbit. Thank you. And perhaps if you could be so kind to answer another question. Why are we giving the Tweedles a cake? It's like rewarding bad behavior, she asked, handing it over. Because we set out to deliver a cake to everyone in the kingdom, and we're not going to let the likes of them ruin our day or our dispositions. Now are we? She couldn't help but smile when the White Rabbit was so serious, and she wouldn't dare say so to his face, but she found his earnestness quite adorable. Indeed not, Rabbit. Let's just put it over there on the rock. Make haste. They're on their way back, and I want to be away as quickly as we can manage. She watched the Rabbit make his way to the rock near the tree where they had first spied the dreaded Tweedle brothers. She sighed and closed her eyes as their voices grew nearer, still arguing over the rattle. But even so, she was starting to feel calmer. The White Rabbit did seem to have a way of making her feel more at ease, and just as she was about to put the Tweedle tobacco behind her and embolden herself to take the Rabbit's advice to push forward with their adventure, she heard a loud call and the sound of powerful wings. It was the large raven, who she had completely forgotten about until she saw it swooping down toward the White Rabbit. Rabbit, no! Watch out! But it wasn't the Rabbit the raven was after, and it wasn't the Tweedles, even though by the looks of terror on the Tweedle brothers' faces, they seemed quite sure the raven was about to attack them. Both brothers ran down a curious-looking path and out of sight, leaving the raven to partake in his actual quarry, and giving the Queen a respite from their arguing. Come along, Rabbit, let the raven enjoy its cake. Now, which way do you think we should go? The Queen was trying to shake off her anxiety and doing her best to find the amusement in their situation. But the truth was she was terribly afraid the raven was going to snatch the White Rabbit and take him to places unknown. Thank goodness the raven seemed to prefer cake to rabbits. This wonderland was already proving to be a strange place, and she had only seen but a fraction of it. Let's go left, Your Majesty, said the Rabbit rather deliberately, as if he knew for a fact that was the way they should go. She loved that about him, always seeming so sure about himself and what was the right thing to do. At least one of them did. She honestly didn't know what she would do without him. She tried to imagine what this day would be like if if the white rabbit hadn't happened upon her in the hedge maze. What would she have done? Would she have been brave enough to explore this unusual land on her own? Or would she have gone back into the castle to face her stranger of a husband? She did wonder what the king was thinking, since upon waking that morning she had screamed and run out of the room. She had not heard from him since. She thought it was curious he didn't come after her, or send anyone to see if she was well. It made her think she had made the right decision, to run away from a man who didn't give two figs about his wife. Your Majesty, did you hear me? If it's agreeable to you, I think we should go left. The rabbit's voice brought the queen out of her musings. And why left, little rabbit? Because the Tweedles were right? Left just seems like the best way to go. What do you think they meant, Rabbit? That business about me thinking I am one thing about finding out that I am another. We all change, don't we, Your Majesty? Perhaps that's all they meant. Besides, I'm not sure we should take them too seriously. They don't seem reliable. Quite right. Perhaps the next person we meet will be more level-headed. I dare say they will be, and far less infuriating, said the rabbit. But the queen could tell this time the rabbit wasn't at all convinced he was right.